Oh, yeah, it was very interesting learning about your journey and your experience in Bosnia. Now, I think we'll move on to the second part of this interview, and this will be more about Islamic finance and things like that. So, to start off, it's a bit more of a general question, but how would you compare and contrast Islamic finance with the Western finance? Like, what are the main differences we as Muslims should be aware of?
So, if we compare Western, we are probably thinking like something like capitalism or something like that. Although these days there is not much capitalism in a pure form as when you read the books. What is the capitalism? So it's some sort of a mixture. Well, the best to give you some example. Let me give you one example that yesterday I came across. Yesterday I was listening a documentary as I was driving. I put something to play, and it was about pharmaceutical industry. And they brought this example of young men. I'm not sure what's his name or what's the name of his company, although I saw a few times, where he somehow got the patent of one of these very critical medicine. Now, I cannot remember, is that a medicine for AIDS or one of these diseases? I cannot remember what it was, but he got a patent, and then he increased the price again, thousands of %. Okay. And so if the drug, let's say on the market, used to sell at that time, for example, $100 a dose, now it's maybe hundreds of thousands or something like that. And he caused a massive uproar. He became the most hated person in the world. And he was so smug, arrogant. People are dying. He's making profit and all of these things. And then they asked him on the TV after he got a lot of hate, is there something, knowing what you know now, how you became so hated, symbol of greed, is there something that you could have done differently? And he said, I would probably do something differently, which is raise the price even more. Okay, so that was his response. And he said, I don't have a duty to anybody except my shareholders to maximize their wealth. I don't have a duty to this one or that. And then the story continue a few other similar area, which is one of the other company that does a gene therapy in a cancer. And the thing is that this gene therapy was developed by public funding from some of universities, but this company took that funding because they have very strong litigation team, lawyers, and they privatized it, and they charge for it something like 300,000 euros. So that's about $500,000. Okay, about $500,000. And and there is no reason for charge. It's just for no reason. Something that is maybe $100, $200, let's say 1,000, you charge $500,000, and then people cannot pay. But people are desperate. They're dying. You're forcing government to pay $500,000. And then they were saying, well, look, this is something that we do in order to make our business sustainable. We need to invest. This is all sound argument, like they make sense on the face value. We need to invest in business in order to make more medicine and so on. So somebody did the research. They got the board meetings of these companies, and they looked at how much actually money goes on marketing, on research and development. Nothing from these companies. And all of the money was purely just the profit. And so I thought about that. And for me, that is the worst type of capitalism that there is, which is capitalism that has zero moral value or ethical bearings. And so what we used to say capitalism, and a lot of these ideas are like a free market economy and competition and less government interference, fairness, don't fix the market, don't force people to do what they don't want to do. This is all designed to unlock human drive and incentivize production and so on. But the problem also becomes with this is when this was originally developed, these ideas, people had common decency, common sense, and they had some values. Even though religion was on decline for the last couple of centuries, the people had a common decency. They lived in the community, and their experience of the community and how they are perceived in that community and what they do in that community was still important. Family values, community values, honor, dignity. You see your fellow neighbor. You can't just run away in a bubble like today. And so you had connection to the reality which kept you grounded. Yes, you wanted to make a profit. And there is nothing wrong with making profit. And it's true. You should be free to negotiate these things. But once the profit becomes the only thing you measure yourself by, and you take it to the most extreme element, then you have this what we call crony capitalism, which is the most greedy and inhumane way to use the power that you have. And so this is how I see today that capitalism is sort of growing more like a tumor. It's unnaturally growing. It's swallowing everything, and it's using politics, influence to buy its way forward. It's not anymore even relying on innovation and all of these things, but it's relying on the power of money, power of lawyers, power of getting its way. And unfortunately, the consequences of that immoral capitalism will be even more division. It will be very negative consequences on the society. So this is unfortunately where the state is. It's you cannot just have a system without some kind of underlying values to guide those decisions in the system. And this is where we are, unfortunately.
So, for me to try to summarize it, would you say the main difference between Islamic finance and Western finance is that there is an element of religious moral values?
Yeah, the moral values are one component that guides the system, because moral values give you some soft rules, what to do, because it gives you some perspective that there are other stakeholders in whatever you are doing. You are not doing business just by yourself. You're doing business in the community, right? So what you do affect other people, and what other people do affect you. It's like on the rules of road, in the traffic. You can't just think about, I'm the only one, I have a fast car, I will do whatever I want, I will not care about anybody. You have to take in account other people, and you have to have some kind of rules. And so if you just think of yourself, eventually this is a very lonely lifestyle, that this is a lifestyle that produces a lot of greed, a lot of resentment, and so Islam recognizes that there are many dimensions of satisfied life, that it's not just about chasing a number, or that life is not the viewing life as if everything is a commodity with a price tag that you can buy or sell. A lot of life is not like that. Like friendships and a lot of important things that we value in life, they don't come with a price tag. You cannot just buy people. You cannot just have your way by spending more money. Not everything works like that. So you have to recognize that a lot of the things that you will later value or that will be important are not to do with money. In fact, most of the things that we value in our life are nothing to do with money. Your health, for example, your relationship with your parents, your friends, your own peace of mind. So a lot of these things, nothing to do with just having calm environment, people in your neighborhood, good neighborhood. What's the point if you destroy your neighborhood and everything is damaged then? So your own personality, your own spirituality, by helping others, being involved, give you different levels of satisfaction. So you have to recognize that, and this is where these values and involving yourself, being more balanced and fair, seeking different dimensions to wealth. It's not just about numerical growth. It's a growth in many other areas of life. And so Islam recognizes that and encourages person to be generous, to spend their wealth. If you spend your wealth and you try to help and assist, will you also rip people when you are charging them and selling them services? You are conscious. You don't want to. If you can produce a bread and you are the only one, are you going to sell it for $1 million and let the people starve, and then you make more profit? Even business sense, it doesn't make sense. But yes, values and ethics and also financial responsibilities that person have are part of ecosystem, a lifestyle that Islam builds into its own system.
So when you hear, talks about Islamic finance versus Western finance, the most common thing you hear about is riba, or interest, in the difference between them. So how would you characterize that? How would you talk about that?
Reba is one of those things that is a very lazy way of making money. It's just making money grow, and you don't do anything. You just put the pressure, you put everything on the other side. And just by virtue of giving them money, you have a synthetic growth, which is that money grow by itself. So you lend some money and take money in return. And so money start giving and growing and giving birth. And that keeps person, you don't even care how it grows from what anymore, as long as they are giving you more and more. And so that creates another layer of artificial mindset, because you don't care how they're going to make money, what they're going to do with it. Like, you are not taking profit from real products and services, or you don't even care what it is from. And so it's up to these people to take all of the risk and come up with something that will justify the profit that they give you. And this is what it pushes people to create fake products and things like that. That's why food they make is fake, and other products are fake, or that's why the incentives are there just to make anything look real or feel real, or just a quick money, anything that can just give them more of something. And so this filters out in everything. So I was also again listening another podcast or something, where they were talking about another drug company that had 2 patents. One is imperfect drug that keeps treating the symptoms of something. Another one is better but more expensive but close the symptoms of the disease. And they chose to promote the one that just keeps the symptom, deals with the symptoms, doesn't get rid of it, because it makes more long-term incentives for the organization. And in fact, you could see where the company could say, well, don't give the cure. Like if it is like just about business, then, well, buy the patent for a cure. Let's give them a tablet for treating the symptoms so that they are longer customers. I mean, this is the natural sort of taken to extreme. I'm not saying anybody doing that or not doing that, but like this is how that taken to extreme you can go. What did I, again, like I forgot, what did you say? There was some piece at the end you mentioned as well. What was the...
I just asked, how would you talk about Reba? Like, how would you talk about
So this is caused by that Reba mentality that I call that lazy way, parasite. As a parasite on society, you suck everything, and that has a flow-on effect because everybody now is going towards this dark side of capitalism, crony capitalism, and just trying to make money any way possible, fake, anything. Because often a real life cannot mimic the fake returns that Reba can do. You see, Reba, whether the economy go up and down or whatever, they make the same profit. So how do you do that in a real life? You can't do that. If you are a farmer, some year you don't get a good yield. Other years it's good. You can't always have a fixed, and so that's the problem of Reba, that disconnects you, and it can cause people to start exploiting. It opens the door to exploit other people, and also it moves the money into the activities which are like that, lazy. So less and less people start being, because you are not engaging as a partner in business with them anymore. The relationship is borrower and lender. So it creates disincentives for people to invest money and risk it. And that creates economy where there is less and less risk takers. It trains society to just rely on fixed return and from nothing. And so no one then wants to take a risk. And so this risk-averse mentality then affects how we engage in things in life. As I said, life is risky. You start this podcast, it's risky. Maybe no one listens, but you still try. If you don't try, nothing will happen. You understand? So you have to take a risk. If you don't take the risk, you're never going to try anything. So that's how life is. And Reba is opposite of that. And that's why I call it very, very lazy mentality that's then become a part of way of seeing things, and has very, very negative effects on society.
That's what it's an important explanation of why Reba is bad. But there's when they teach you economics in Western countries, they give you some justifications why Reba exists. They say something like there's inflation. And to keep up with inflation, you need to have Reba, or else you're losing money when you lend money. How do you talk about that?
Well, look at now. Inflation is caused not by Reba or anything or lack or. In fact, now they say when you see inflation, like in Turkey recently, there was inflation. They say you need to bring your interest rates up to fix it. So all of these economic theory that says, oh, you have inflation, is basically designed to just artificially deal with inflation. The reason why we have inflation is that there are two sides of how you get to inflation. One is the government increases the supply of money, so you have a lot of money, and naturally what happens when you have a lot of something. You have what they call money. More money is chasing less and less goods, so the price of those goods become more expensive, and this is what we think as inflation. Suddenly, something that used to cost $10 now costs $12. All right, but that's reflected because you have a lot of money. So the stimulus, but this inflation that we are seeing right now, gripping the world. It didn't come from that side. There was that what they call push. But the reason for this inflation is that you have less goods and services in the economy. So what we call supply chain is affected, meaning we are not producing a lot of it. Like now the oil, why is now oil, gas, I don't know how you call it, petrol, more? Because there is a fear that Ukraine-Russia war will cause this region to export their oil to the rest of the world, which I think Russia is exporting about 10% of the world oil. And so, and that region by itself, for example, 25% wheat, other metals and so on. So you suddenly have, if you are producing cars or if you are producing, or Europe, 40% of the energy it comes from Russia. So what's happening? Suddenly everything that you're producing become more costly. And with Corona, people couldn't, it was more difficult. Factories were closed. So suddenly you have less things to make. So what caused the inflation is the production. You are not producing, or it's costly to produce. And that's why you have inflation. These things that they are produced then cost more. And that's inflation. So how do you do that? Well, you need to increase the production. How do you increase production? You need to take a risk. So we are back at the same square. To increase the risk, you need to risk something, partner with somebody. So the only way to do it is opposite again of what Reba is telling you, to be scarce, to be just putting money to grow by itself. Just putting money, if we all put money to grow and nobody produced, we would all starve. So you see that logic ends up just artificially, this is just for the newspaper or something like that. But in real life, that's why Turkey, if you look what they're doing, they're pushing production. They transition the economy to be more producing. And that's how it is. That's where the answer is, to be producing economy.
Yeah, I know. Reba is a very interesting topic, and just as as a young person who's kind of just stepping into adult life, like when I hear about inflation, I always get worried. How can I combat this? And I like how you're saying taking risks, making partnering up with people or making investments. Do you have any tips for people who are my age, who are kind of just starting out to think about these things? What are some good things that we can maybe look into and maybe start doing? Or
like young person, there might be, let's say, two broad options. Let's say that they finished their studies and all of that, or maybe they didn't, but doesn't matter really. They should, as soon as possible, start working, unless you're studying in some kind of specialty where you are already, you are a surgeon or a high level something, and then your work is already what you are studying, and you are building yourself up. But let's say you some other generic degrees and so on, you should be already working and getting that experience. So a person should try to get as best as possible in the areas of study, specialize, and become a very valuable member of a team. So you will have either of one or two situations. One is that you are either part of a business or organization where you're trying to do your best and be the most valuable part and grow that business. And, inside you are pushing, you are part, or you are leading in some way and starting something new. And so whichever path you choose, it's because it's not everybody can do all of these things. You have to recognize yourself. Can I lead? Do I want it? Do I like it? Do I have some great idea? How do I lead? By my charisma, how I am, or my knowledge or something. But you have to have something if you are leading. Or you say, look, I even if you read these big entrepreneurs, you see Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, Steve was more tech guy and obsessed with this technology. And Steve Jobs was more like marketing guy. He knew the stuff, but he was more salesman and showman. But he knew the things. And so maybe if the Steve Jobs was engineer and the other guy was salesman, there wouldn't be no Apple and so on. So, you pick who are you? What is your contribution? Try to be the best in it. I don't subscribe that we all need to be leaders and entrepreneurs and everything, because it's impractical. It's not possible. And people find different satisfaction in different things. So you might be subject matter expert. You might be, other type of expert and so on. So everybody can lead in different way. So you find your spot, you focus on that, you try to be the best you can. If you can make a business out of it, and, it would be great if we had, I usually say 5% of people should try to make a business out of it. Whatever that area of business is, doesn't really matter, but at least 5% of people should in our community start a businesses that employs about 5 people at least. So that should be a goal. So not everybody should just work, but there has to be somebody who will start those business organizations and so on. Because again, that takes you to the next level of doing things and tackling problems. But that's my advice for young people. Just try to create a value. Try to create value. Don't worry. Don't chase the money. Don't worry about inflation. Don't worry about what kind of money we have. What's economy doing? How is it doing? Don't worry about none of that. At the end of the day, it's how are you as economy doing? You are economy. How are you doing? That's what you need to worry. What are you producing? What are you giving? So don't too much get bogged down in the too high level things that you cannot do anything about. So this is my advice, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice. I'm just kind of curious, like if we ourselves wanted to start, like if we have enough money and start already working and we want to start investing, like do you have any tips on like where we should look? Because we also like mentioned like stuff that we have to avoid, like Reba, and like we also need to make sure that where we're investing is also Sharia compliant. If we're like looking into that, like what do you think would be the best starting place or starting point?
You could test few things here and there. Again, depends how intensely you want to be involved. That like you could look here and there. What are some of the things that you are interested in? And usually a lot of people say that, but like what am I using? What products I'm familiar with? Okay, so I'm using this microphone. Like I'm using the glasses. I'm using the, I don't know, some devices, whatever. Whatever I'm using. I'm just looking at myself. Are these products good? Like Elon Musk was saying the other day, like he said, basically, I can't tell you how did he put it? Well, maybe he didn't put it this way, but he basically was saying, I believe, don't invest in Tesla just because, like you think this and that. All right. Invest. And of course, this is not financial advice. I'm just saying myself. He said, if you, let's say, use Tesla, you have Tesla car and you think it's good value and you think this is like really good thing for the whatever environment. Maybe you want, like you might want to consider that to be investment, And when I heard that, I don't tell people invest in Tesla or not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's an interesting way of thinking. If you believe in something, then maybe it's not a bad idea to invest in that. Then just arbitrarily, what's growing next year or what's going up and down and chasing that. But if you think, okay, so this makes sense and long term, and so you find something that makes sense to you that you like, you might want to do that. I guess another part is you will only learn limited things from that. You'll be more aware. And it's maybe good for your financial literacy just so that you can start understanding what's happening. But really, if you have some money and if you have some friends and have some people around you, it's not a bad idea to start with people who are experienced or something into investing in some business that might be more local to you, that you can see with your hand, with your eyes. All right. So just like, maybe you run a coffee shop, and then you suddenly start, okay, let's us actually hire the place, run a coffee shop. Let's see how that goes, or open a hospital, or, start a factory to make stuff. So whatever it is, like depending on your capability, you might say, well, let's see how that works. And more you can be involved in business by yourself with your own hands and learn from it, the better that investment will be for you, because you want also to learn how to do things, how to solve the problems. You want to grow your experience, confidence. You see, again, going back to Elon Musk, you see now, he started one company, I don't know what's called, X or whatever, and then it came PayPal or something, and then, like slowly, then he put how many, $30 million of it to Tesla. Then he was almost bankrupt. Then he split the money between Tesla and SpaceX. And look now that Tesla, how big of Tesla are we talking about? I don't know how many hundreds of billions of dollars worth. So he created the companies from, and by the way, every one of his team members on the PayPal became later billionaires, founders of some other organizations. So now Tesla, the Elon Musk, now look at that. I mean, that's just extreme example, but it's an interesting lesson, which is that his net worth is now $200-300 billion. But look at what he's created. He's created Tesla, which is hundreds of billions of dollars company. He created SpaceX, hundreds of billions. Neuralink, Boring company. Like, he got 4 or 5 companies that he created just in the last 20 years that are all billion-dollar companies. But that's not important part. A lot of people think, that's the point here is not that he created these things. The point is that he's solving such a massive problems. Okay? And people are just saying thank you. That's why it's valuable. People are saying thank you. He's now supplying a satellite connection to the Ukraine, changing the war. and there is a suspicion that these navigation anti-aircraft that are taking Russian tanks are using his satellites to navigate. So what I'm saying, you mentioned you are from Indonesia. He just met with the Indonesian president. And I was sharing with some of my friends, when I was in Indonesia, I know the difficulty of connecting, for example, Indonesia, because there is thousands of islands. How do you bridge? I mentioned 3 things that Elon could do for Indonesia to take it to the very interesting area. One is the energy. Look at what he's doing with this solar panels. One of the problems in Indonesia to connect it with the grid is that you can't connect those islands. They're all disconnected. They're disconnected also in terms of transportation and communication. So you have energy, transportation, and communication. Because nature of the geography, all islands, you cannot connect them easily. So imagine if you have a Starlink, which is, with the one Starlink, you get hundreds of people using that in a school, for example. You connect thousands of those islands with just from the space internet. So business and communication. He's got a Boring company which specializes in solving the traffic problems, and energy, specific way that his roofs, those roofs, if you see, I don't know how they go, solar tiles that work in terms of the energy efficiency and the batteries and so on. That's why he's who he is, because he solved these massive problems. I mean, I'm not saying he is the solution for Indonesia or any other country, but that's what any country should be looking. How can you have a business that doesn't have good communication, good transportation, and is dependent on energy that is unreliable. I mean, so this is extreme, very high level stuff. 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 people will do it, but they will come from the risk takers who will dream of something and try something, and eventually you become someone who changes the world, really. And it's not just him, but thousands of people who take the same risk. And so when I look at our young people, we are in desperate needs of people who will take risk and tackle the problems head on, challenge the way. And I'm not saying Elon Musk is this and that, but I'm saying that even Elon Musk, I don't know what value drive him. I mean, I don't know what, or anybody. I mean, I like to know that person who has such enormous power has got some values and something that will keep him accountable. And that person will be forced for the good. And so I think for the Muslim business owners and entrepreneurs, this kind of wholesome solutions that are positive net value in society, I think we as a Muslim community, we are very, very much in need of those people who will solve real problems and make lives better. And that can only be done by trying to engage in these things by ourselves, not lazily. Again, just buying stock, even when it is Sharia compliant, it's not the most. It's still passive. That's why they call it passive investment. It's not very active. It's not leadership. Leadership is when you do something more actively, and you get involved and you grow from that. So look for that growth and look for that future. It's not going to happen just by you buying shares and holding it. I mean, even if they are most beautiful Sharia compliant shares, but it's still very passive. So think about that. What do you want to do? How you want to do it?
So so I think here's an important question for people wanting to get into this domain. What are the main red flags or boundaries Islam has set to keep us safe in terms of transactions?
General advice is to invest in something that creates real benefit, that benefits someone, solves a particular problem. These days, it's very easy to get caught up in the hype and just focus on, again, just making money. Like if you look at a lot of things that are happening, people are telling you invest in this. Why? It's not because it solves this particular problem, but it's just growing monetarily. Numerically, this is growing. This NFT, this crypto, this company, this exchange. It's just, and you're asking, okay, so what does it solve? What problem does it solve? What does it do? No, don't worry about that. Just invest in it because it's growing. And so this is a particularly problematic view where a person is just throwing money because something is numerically growing. You don't know why. And so I would say that getting into the hype is a red flag. If everybody is speaking about something, be very mindful that this might be a hype. One of those things is that you see these days a lot of people come, okay, blockchain this, blockchain that, what if there is some particular problem that blockchain or NFT or crypto is a solution for, okay, use that as a solution. But don't start with the point where I have the technology, this particular technology, and I'm looking for a problem, because a lot of blockchain solutions are like that. We start with the blockchain and then we want to find a problem that we solve with that, which in real life doesn't happen like that. We have a problem and then we say, okay, from the technology that we have, what's the solution? What's the best way to do it? In a similar way, NFT popped up and then everybody say, oh, this will be Web 3.0, okay, how, what, like we don't know, like what's happening, but everybody is just very quickly jumping in something. Remember a few years there were ICOs. Suddenly ICOs, those initial coin offering, they will solve everything. Now you have a cryptos again. We started with cryptos. Now you have tens of thousands of them, and so I think people, because what is happening around them, they are getting less and less critical in the way that they think or analyze, and more they want to believe in fairy tales that this is going to go to the moon and I'm going with it. They are just so desperate. And so this is one of those red flags, just if it is too good, if it looks too good, too safe, and usual spin is applied, be a bit more critical in your thinking.
With regards to Muslims wanting to get into business or entrepreneurship, what are the haram elements they should avoid? Like, for example, Reba, everyone knows about it, but nowadays there's so many different forms of Reba, etc. What are the things Muslims should stay away from because they're haram in our religion?
I think if the core of the business, you look at what business is actually doing. So if it is core of the business is something that is not acceptable in terms of the religion, then you try to stay away from that. So any kind of haram asset class, any product or services that is clearly explicitly haram, that or that goes against some kind of objectives of the Sharia. And the objectives of the Sharia is basically to preserve like family life, health of the people, just spirituality, ties, anything that you see that Sharia is encouraging, ethical conduct, not cheating people, exploiting somebody, disinformation, any type of gambling, any type of making money from type of businesses that really benefit nothing or no one, and play on the people ignorance or gullibility and stuff like that. So anytime you see the business like that, that's something that you need to be mindful of. And that's why if you think about how is this benefiting, when I make a cup of coffee, I know who is the customer, and I know how it benefits them exactly, and I know what I'm making money from. So always ask yourself, what is specifically that I'm making money from? What's the underlying economic activity that is causing this profit? That's how you know. That's how you know.
And what would your message be to some Muslims who may say, nowadays there aren't enough halal alternatives, we need to turn to things like riba, we need to invest in these businesses, in the Western world everything is haram, they would claim?
Well, if you look at what are the biggest drivers of economy and what everybody needs, it's not. What are the biggest businesses? What are the biggest innovation? What are the biggest startups? First of all, they are not even financed by riba; they are financed by equity. You have your investors rounds. The seed rounds and the angel investors and these investors, they are all financing by taking equity stake. So even the financing of the biggest businesses is not done through riba today. It's only when they are established that they finance through riba. Second thing, these businesses, even today, the businesses, if we are not looking just purely, argument was, there are not enough businesses and the only riba is. But even if the conventional business, like if you look at Zoom, skyrocketed to billions of dollars, healthcare, billions of dollars, Netflix or streaming services, billions of dollars, the car, Uber, social medias. So none of these were riba. These were look at Amazon, the logistics business, and people solving problems for people is where you get something. And so it looks to me that anybody who thinks that there are no these opportunities, they lack basic imagination. And I think you cannot tell to the people who don't have imagination, but I would say if you really are interested in providing some benefit to humanity, you need to be more imaginative. And this is one of the leadership skills, which is that you imagine how things could be in the future. So the imagination is very important, that you exercise that and you engage, and that's what vision comes from. You have no vision then for anything. You want to have that look forward. Imagine how things could be. Because even, look, the technology we are using just to communicate now, from the microphones, the cameras, the software, the hardware, and infrastructure, somebody had to imagine these things before it existed even. And so I think this is where importance of a little bit thinking, contemplating, trying, and risking. Risk is very important to strengthen and not be paralyzed, to think bravely. Otherwise, if we all think scared way, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, and then we have some fake excuse, then I'm afraid. Imagine that society where everybody thinks like that. That's going to be, well, that's how you have a lot of our Muslim countries. No one is doing anything. No one is doing anything. They're just sitting and, oh, we cannot do anything. And then feed us, please give us food and everything, and give us then money and become, where if you look at some other countries, I mean, just look at some of these countries which are very small and they have very entrepreneurial. I mean, look at Japan. What Japan is doing? They have nothing, but they produce the best things. You want a car, you want anything. You know that you're gonna get something. Same in Germany. You want a good tool, good equipment. You buy German made, because you know what you're getting. Okay, so I mean, even I don't want people to get upset with me, but even Benjamin Netanyahu was talking about Israel is a 0.01 population, but gets 20% of the whole venture capital for business of the world. Why? Because they, as they themselves, one of the Zionists, he wrote a book about it, and he said, look, because we risk, we have a culture of risking. We don't say to people who risk it and fail, bad action. We encourage that. It's good. Okay, you fail. You tried. You understand? It's a very interesting how we adopt the opposite and think that something will change. Where every country that actually is leading is risking it massively, and they celebrate the failure as a part of the natural progression towards. Imagine if you train the sports and you say, well, I can't try to shoot a basketball. What if I miss it? Well, to shoot a good game, it's expected that you will try thousands of times and 99% you will miss it to play the good game after that. Anybody who says, I don't want to try shooting the basketball because I might miss it, is a foolish person. they really don't understand that that's the only way to go forward, is by, in fact, the best basketball player, he miss the most number of shots, percentage-wise. I compare myself to Michael Jordan. I miss less shots, yeah? Isn't it? Isn't that true? Who miss more shots on the basketball, me or Michael Jordan? So if I look at by that metrics, then I'm a better player than him because I miss less shots. He missed more shots than me. That means he's a bigger failure than me. I mean, who thinks like that? Seriously, like. But you see, when we decouple reality and we, instead of focusing on what you actually do, we all focus on what did you miss or what can happen, bad thing, or,
So here's a question more for on the communal level. So in the West, what do you think Muslim communities, what initiatives should they come together to be a part of? So for example, I know there's some organizations, they have halal mortgages for buying homes, some like maybe Beit al-Mal initiatives or helping out social services, helping out each other. What sorts of initiatives like these have you seen? And which ones would you encourage Muslims to pursue in the West or maybe even Muslim countries?
Any initiative that you have some expertise or knowledge, you want to start something. And if you can collect some money, bring some experts, usually think about to do it very well legally from the beginning. So you bring maybe a good lawyer, good accountant, somebody who's financial, understand regulation, what you can and cannot do. And then you structure the governance. The governance is the most important, in my opinion, because I say to the people, the governance is a necessary piece for people to trust what you're going to do, what you're trying to do. And so if you don't have a structure, governance and regulatory framework, then like you cannot ask people to invest in you. So start working, get the experts. You cannot know everything. You don't know it. Don't try to know everything. Try to get what you know a little bit. Don't invest in technology if you don't know anything about technology. If you are in real estate, invest in real estate. If you are the health, don't try to just follow what is the trend. So grow, learn, connect with other people. Whatever area is a good, like here in Australia, as I said before, a lot of people do home finance, a lot of people do pension funds and so on, leasing and stuff like that. And that's why when we saw some scattered investment in healthcare, we thought, okay, let's make a fund and let's do more structured way of investing and running those businesses, owning them, not just simply buying something. And so we learn from that, we understand it, and so you slowly grow like that. So whatever is available to you. Again, it could be simple thing like buying a house and selling it, or buying a little coffee shop or buying a bigger thing, and you learn from these things, and you will know how well and how I guess skillful you are after you start that business. You'll see yourself. So just start something small, see how it goes, learn. It doesn't have to be overnight. Don't worry. Like, think about more in a long term. Like you guys now 20s or something. Don't worry, what can I do by 22 or 25? Think about what can you do by 70. By the time you're 70, if you continue gradually, every day, everything, you're learning and pushing and going, and so don't, as they say, underestimate long term, that compounding of effort, not the interest, but compounding of your experience and the effort, and that is the powerful thing. So the long-term strategy is the key.
Jazakallahu khairan for the advice. So how would you suggest someone goes about learning Islamic finance if they're interested in the subject?
So Islamic finance, it's there are a lot of online, a lot of courses, a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different books. They're university courses, they're short, long, postgraduate, PhDs. I would say that it's important to some people learn what is it that they are involved in. If you are a lawyer, if you are a regulator, there are aspects of Islamic rules that affects business and law and that environment. Read also other things. Don't just not read other business books, other economic, principles, and so try to understand your area. Try to be very critical of what you're reading. and then try to compare, put it all in some sort of a perspective. But yeah, there are a lot of things. Just you can just Google. I mean, YouTube. A lot of things, short, long courses. You don't have to leave everything and just study that. So even if you study just a normal business or economics, and then you on the side you have a passion to learn more and read more, or if you are a business person, ask specific questions that you need to know related to your business, contemplate a bit more on what you are doing. We don't need to drop everything. You can be part-time learner, study a few hours a week, or you don't have to drop. Keep your life running, do your things, and dedicate sometimes, let's say 3 hours a week or 4 hours, or depending what your situation is, what you want to get. But at least learn things that you are involved. What are the rulings, and ask for directions. So yeah.
So do you have any good books or any good websites, or if someone's interested about a specific type of business, is there anyone they could contact or any resources?
I mean, there are good books. Understanding Islamic Finance by Muhammad Ayub is a very, very good book that covers a lot of areas when it comes to Islamic finance. I really enjoyed that one. Another one is Mufti Taqi Usmani's Introduction to Islamic Finance is really good. And probably the third one, really useful for a bit more specific, is Ayofi, a book on Sharia standards, which goes a bit more deeper into the certain institutional products and services that they provide. So so these kind of three probably good starting point.
In terms of sometimes I've come across videos on YouTube which are from some popular Muslim individuals telling Muslims to buy gold, buy silver, prepare in case something happens in the future. Do you think there's weight to that and Muslims should start buying gold and silver, or do you think that's overhyped?
I don't believe that. That's as I told you before. If that's not a strategy for anything, that's not a strategy for anything. First of all, it's called hoarding, and hoarding is not good. Islamic principle of the economy, the Quran talks about it, that money and wealth should circulate. So that's number one. So people talking about gold and this and that just doesn't make any sense. First of all, you're just burying your gold and it does nothing productive. Okay, if you make your gold run around or your money run around, then you produce something that you eat and consume, and that should be a logical outcome of that. But another point of view that I would ask these people is that in the time of crisis, where do you think your gold will go? What do you think will happen to your gold and all of your money? It will go to the people who produce things. So if four of us live in a crisis and all of you got the entire gold of the entire world, and I produce everything that you consume, guess where the gold will be in 5 years? It will be in my hands. So even all of you three start with the entire gold of the entire world, and I am producer of things, sugar, coffee, milk, after a while I will get all of your gold. So the gold follows producers, this is what it is. Gold is just the follower. Just follow people who produce value. It's just an expression of who provides the real value here. So it doesn't matter. You can. Second of all, where are you going to get gold? It assumes that you already have some sort of mountains of money and you're just going to exchange for the gold. It's just you want your community, your country to be strong, and you want that you want to be able to grow invest, and so on. So if anything happens to the country, like now, what, you're not gonna eat gold. You want to eat food, right? So what I never understood how these arguments are formed, but they are very individualistic arguments, and they don't work. You want the country and society to be independent, to be independent of other people. Even in Australia, when the pandemic started, because we were not, the government gave money to people, hundreds and hundreds of billions. But because everybody needed new iPads and new phones and new computers and so on, and we were not producing them. I remember for my own family, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had to buy new iPads, new MacBooks, and all of that. And when I was buying, I was tracking on the post office website, where is the item. All items were coming from China. So whether the government or my own personal money, all is during pandemic going to the people who are producing those iPads and technology. And that include also ingredients for the medicine and so on. And so you ask yourself, what is the point here? Like, yeah, so I don't subscribe to that idea.
Okay, and now slowly moving towards wrapping up this interview. When you look at the state of Islamic finance and economics in the Muslim world, perhaps in the Western communities as well, are you optimistic? And do you think we're on the verge of seeing a lot more new initiatives, Islamic banking stuff start to rise up, perhaps in Turkey, Malaysia, these sorts of countries, or do you still think it might be difficult for us to accomplish those things? Like, what are the trends you've been noticing, and how should Muslims support those positive trends?
I think the positive trend is that we are much more aware that the bank or financial institution should be connected with the real economy, and it should be what I call engine of growth, of economic growth. It's not a separate entity, and you cannot have a healthy banking and finance industry without healthy economy, healthy production, and so good example of that is Turkey. I'll give you one example. Recently, I was talking with one of the Turkish academics who was very critical of what government is doing, and he was telling me, look, the Turkey are in last 20 years they are not producing enough wheat. They have to buy it from Russia and so on. And I checked those statistics. He was correct that Turkey, for example, was importing much wheat from Russia in last 10-20 years. But when I checked why, it was not because Turkey is not producing enough wheat. In fact, they tripled and quadrupled production of wheat. But what's happening is that they also increased the export of wheat-based products. And to make the gap in wheat that they need to create the products for export, they needed to import. So that's a good thing. So that's exactly what you want to be doing. So now Turkey, in terms of economy, they are very much producing almost everything that they need. And they are one of the top 10 producers in agricultural products. Almost 2,000 items they are exporting in about 200 countries. And so that for me, and you can look at any number of areas, even defense, for example. Like if you look at defense, since we talk about Bosnia and this and that, Turkey is almost 70% defense independent. Their drone Bayraktar now very prominent in the last Azerbaijan war, now in Ukraine, used to decimate Russian troops. And so the way I would say when it comes to economy, Islamic economy, is that Islamic economy should work with entrepreneurs, should take a risk in order to solve the real problems of every country. That is that create and transition economy to be more producing, so that we solve our energy needs, our food security, technology, manufacturing, and similar. And this is then become strategic issue for our economy. You don't want our economies to be like today. You see, dependent and just rely on borrowing money, and then they borrow money, and then they, with that borrowed money, buy food and things that somebody else is producing. So you end up with nothing. You don't have money, and you don't have production capacity. And so that is definitely recipe for dependence and for weakness. And that's what Islam doesn't want to see from Muslim state, that they are in a state of lower hand, begging others to give them money, feed them, solve their problems. And then you ask yourself why people leaving Islam don't want to know, because they say, what kind of, in the past, Muslims used to be the upper hand. They would go and spread Islam, and traders come to here and there. And, now we can't feed ourselves. I mean, what is that? So this is where Islamic industry, finance especially, needs to connect and make a difference on the ground. So like I was once in Karachi talking with one of the bankers, Mizan Investment, and I said, look, we need, even when we measure ourselves, we need to go to other what do we call KPI, performance indicators, beyond just the money, and think about what is it that we are changing in this country. So if I'm run investment business in this country, the largest like that, let's say Mizan Investment, rather than just looking my return on capital from percentage numerical, which is important, but how about you track also what am I changing in this country, something that is happening as a result of me being in this country. What else am I changing? So track those changes, monitor those things. What's happening in my country? What difference do I make? And so these are all different indicators that shows really the health and sustainability of our economy.
Thank you so much for that. I think that was super interesting. I'd never thought about it that way. And yeah, I guess I would just want to thank you for spending the last hour and a half with us. It's been a super insightful talk, at least for me, and I hope for everyone else and the audience. I kind of do want to end up with a lighter note. If we're visiting, let's say, Australia or Bosnia, do you have any place that you'd recommend?
Look, Bosnia is beautiful to go for a holiday, spend at least when you're traveling, maybe before you go to Turkey, or some people go to Umrah or something like that. It's nice to make it a point to just at least 3 days, 7 days, 5 days, whatever, visit some of the cities, talk to the people, get the local guide. There are a lot of food is beautiful. People are very welcoming. It's a very nice environment. And so, just a little bit Google, find somebody local there. And usually from Sarajevo or some of these bigger area, you can stay and you can roam around and then stay in the smaller places. Just a little bit plan it. I think it's a good idea. Sometimes even as a group, a lot of people I know they make like a group visit. I'm sure in most of your communities there will be some Bosnians, make a little group visit as well. It's not a bad idea as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think Bosnia is definitely on my bucket list. If inshallah one day I'll be able to travel.
Food is also very nice. Food,
yeah,
they have such a beautiful food. A lot of places like farms, places in the mountains, restaurant. They have very organic and good food. I mean, it's just amazing experience.
Yeah, definitely. Anyhow, do you have any closing remarks for us? If not, where can we like where can the audience find you if they want to contact you or anything like that?
Well, I thank you for the invitation, and I congratulate you on a podcast that you are doing. It's not an easy. A lot of things and thought goes into these things. But Alhamdulillah, as you already know, I'm sure that you see that with every episode, everything that comes up, you improve it and you find and fine tune something. And so I think just keep it up. Consistency over time will produce its own effect. And I'm happy to come and talk any questions that you have and support you in any way. As for me, I usually put some videos from time to time, and we have Islamic Finance podcast as well. So if you just Google, usually there are some social media websites and so on where I try to put some details, inshallah. We have our Islamic Finance podcast season 4, which we're trying to restart maybe next maybe month or so, where we're gonna exclusively focus on these digital issues that surrounds Islamic economy, but just the way economy is generally going. So maybe look out for that one as well.
Yeah, well, definitely. I think everyone should look out for that. Well, Brother Almir, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of SaalikCast. It was our pleasure to host you, and we ask Allah to bless you in your work and all your affairs. With that, inshallah, we wrap up this episode by asking Allah to accept it from us and make it sincerely for Him. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.